Hello, and my name is Peter Rushmer, and I'm your host today of a Half Dozen Things podcast. A Half Dozen Things is a podcast for business owners and professionals just like you. Whether you're an underdog hungry for success or you're already smashing it but want to continue to level up, we're here each week for you to get insight and learning from the very best in the business. No fluff, no BS, and no self-proclaimed gurus talking about how easy business or life is. Just real, frank, and raw conversations. Good afternoon, listeners, LinkedIn and Facebook. It's great to see you today on Wednesday, the 4th of August, and it's 1 p.m. for lunchtime live. Hope you're keeping well. I'm in the office today. Got all my swimming certificates in the background and all that. So, today I wanted to speak about driver assessments and practical driver assessments and why they are vital for transport operators and fleet operators locally. So I've been speaking to Gary Jones, so I'll tag Gary in this post once I've finished. Gary is our driver assessor and he works for Flagship Partners, and he is apparently there's an issue streaming to LinkedIn, so keep trying and let you know if it's resolved. Okay, so hopefully that's working, and we'll carry on as we mean to go on. So one of the questions that I'm going to be looking at is, why should we do a driver assessment for new drivers? And there's lots of different reasons when I was speaking to Gary about this, and one of the key ones is to reduce the risk of injuries to drivers and colleagues. So it's all about reducing risk. We also want to make sure that we're keeping other road users safe and making sure that we don't have any issues with safety, well-being, and any work-related ill health. The other thing is it does improve driver morale. It makes us appear as it really helps us become a professional transport operator and fleet operator, and it helps us illustrate to drivers the importance of road safety and how important it is to us, as well as improving our brand image as well as a company. It's really, really important that we make sure that as a company we're demonstrating by really, really high standards. The other thing is it also helps you to reduce fleet costs and fuel consumption as well, because part of that driver assessment will help them familiarise themselves with the equipment that you've got and make sure that they're being driven in the most economical possible way. All vehicles are different, and obviously people's driving styles are different as well, and it helps promote environmentally friendly driving too. So what is covered as part of particularly a driver assessment if you're to do one with Flagship Partners and with my colleague Gary? Well, he would do an introduction initially, which includes license checks, any eyesight checks that are required. So that ensures that's one of the requirements of FORS. It makes sure that we have 6 monthly eyesight checks. And the other thing is to reassure the driver, because at the same time, it's very difficult, can be a difficult thing. Drivers don't particularly like people commenting on their driving and what have you. So it's very important that we handle that in a professional way. And then we have an on-road assessment, which will include different road types, urban, rural, particularly dual carriageway, as well as manoeuvres as well. And then at the end, the driver assessor, in our case Gary, he'll be able to help debrief a driver to be able to include feedback and any agreed actions as part of a development plan too. So from a how long does it take point of view, well, we usually allow about an hour and a half in total, 45 minutes to an hour on the road, to allow us to cover those different manoeuvres and to cover the different types of roads that people will come into contact with. It might be good to do it as part of a route plan anyway, as part of a driver induction. It could be done in any number of ways. So one of the things that comes up regularly when I speak to operators that we work with is, why should we use a qualified Devious assessor and not just a senior driver who's very experienced? Well, one of the things is that it's really important that when carrying out any assessments of any work-related driving activity, that someone is competent to do so and they have the right skills, knowledge and experience. Whilst many of us will consider ourselves to be good drivers, that doesn't necessarily mean that we've got the right skill set. it's important that the driver assessor is able to identify, analyse, and be able to rectify any faults in someone's driving. And that can only really be achieved through years and years of experience, years of training. In Gary's case, he's a grade A instructor and on the fleet register of trainers as well. So it's really important that we have the right people. It looks like I'm not going live on LinkedIn, so that's frustrating, but there we go. That's a software issue. But yeah, so being registered with the fleet register of trainers is really, really important. It ensures that the quality of the training that's carried out is what's needed in your business. Okay, so when should driver assessments be completed and reviewed? Well, before employment starts as part of an interview process is ideal. It's really good to get before drivers start, rather than just going, here's the keys and off you go. It's really, really good to make sure that we carry out a practical assessment before work commences. And then we also suggest maybe 6 to 12 months later, depending on the results of any initial assessment. It may be that there isn't a follow-up required, but it can be beneficial to have a follow-up 6 to 12 months later as well. Other reasons for carrying out assessments might be a complaint from a member of the public of poor driving style or use of phone or camera following a collision or a near miss, or any return to work from long-term sickness as well. So I guess the final question is, what are the risks? What can happen if you don't properly assess drivers when they start work with you? Well, the potential for injury, loss of life, even, it can be really high. It can be, essentially you're potentially got quite a bit of risk. If you haven't practically assessed that driver before he's driven for you, or she, how do you know that they are competent to do so? Just because someone's got a license, it doesn't necessarily mean that they're going to drive and represent your company in the way that you'd like them to. You can have damage, increased costs, vehicle maintenance, fuel consumption. That's always a challenge as well, particularly with poor driving style. Particularly, it might even be familiarization. It might be that the driver's not familiar. It might be that the driving's perfectly fine, but actually there's a familiarity issue, and actually the driver doesn't know the best way of using that vehicle to maximize the fuel consumption and to make sure that the least amount of maintenance is required. There's also damage to the business brand as well, potentially, as well as downtime for drivers and vehicles if there's any crashes or any accidents, which can be a challenge too. There's potential for fines and restrictions imposed on the business, which can then create in job losses. And finally, charges against the business can become catastrophic and really, really high. So the potential penalties are really wide reaching. So it's very important that we carry out practical driver assessments. If anyone's got any questions or any comments, more than happy to leave them in the chat bar, and I'll get back to those sort of as and when. But yeah, hopefully that's been worthwhile. Hopefully that's been interesting, and get in touch if you want any practical driver assessments. Give the office a call, have a chat with Gary. I'm sure he's more than happy to help share that with you. He's got a 50-point driver assessment that he does when he goes out with drivers on the road, and actually it's not as painful as you think it's going to be. It's actually, he's able to make it interesting and worthwhile and share a lot of experience, and hopefully get everyone performing safely and driving safely and saving the company money, because they'll be driving efficiently as well. Thank you.
I really hope you loved today's episode, and if you did, please make sure you subscribe and listen out for future episodes too. Please do share it across your social media channels. We hope to reach more and help more people. If you want to find out more about me, my name's Pete Rushmer. You'll find me across any social media channel, and my business, Flagship Partners, and we're your partners in success across your business. Thank you. See you again soon.